Just a quick update and reminder, the O-Ranger videos I've produced will be beginning to be released on my Daily Motion page starting on Saturday. It's going to be a double-up month, as I'm also going to be addressing both of the movies that involve the O-Ranger, so look for the following video on Wednesday, and then the next one on Saturday, and so on and so forth. Yuohger for this week. Akira Date returns! Yeah, since I'm a big O's fan, I was excited to hear Hiroaki Iwanaga. I have not memorized the guy's name. I had to pull up the wiki page to get the name because I have not remembered it. Returns to Toei shows in a guest spot where he plays the romantic paramour for Sela. Now, this is not the first thing since O's that Hiroaki Iwanaga has been in. He was also in Gaiman Wizard, the Fateful Sengoku movie war, as the Bujin World's version of Nobunaga in the Gaim sect of that movie. I think most of the secondary writers were recast as characters in that bit. I'm blanking on all the details. I remember Ryu Terui's actor returned for that one at least. But that's off point. So, I'm not sure if, since I've only seen him in Toei shows, I'm not exactly certain if that's just Hiroaki's default acting state, but his mannerisms in the episode were very much echoing Akira Date in his brashness and soft-voiced boisterousness. It's like, it's counterpointing Leo, where he says everything loudly, versus Akira Date, where even when he's speaking in a calm-sounding voice, he kind of projects his words. So, like I said, I'm not sure if that's just... I've not seen him in enough things to think if that is whether that's just his default acting, or just a quirk they were calling upon that he can do really well. But otherwise, it seemed to work well with the interplay with Sela in the episode, and also contrasting against something we've been kind of guessing at, where Sela and Leo seem to have something of an attraction to each other. It's been teased a few times, and it's called out in this episode as well, where Leo is baffled why Sela's going out with Hiroaki's character when he's asked out Sela a bunch of times and she's always said no. Maybe it's like denying yourself because you know the person and you don't think they'd work out or something like that. But it's kind of teasing the shippers, so to speak, since, well, yeah, I don't think I really need to elaborate on that part. But the twist to this is that Hiroaki's character, who is named Rei, is a cloned recreation created by Kubal. As a bunch of episodes ago, if you all remember, he cut off Bangrei's hand and then fused it to his own so he could use Bangrei's cloning power, memory cloning power, and pretty much the subplot of the episode is him learning to use that ability like Bangrei does. And of course, Bangrei, because he's Bangrei, was more... He wasn't stupid about his use of it, but it was direct in how he used it to either torture people or create minions that would be subservient to himself, since he was ultimately alone, and, contrasting the bridging connections of Zuoger's thing. So Qval instead uses it in a different way, whereas he's a bit more subversive and subtle to create pawns to affect things behind the scenes and try and separate the Zyuohger so his Monster of the Week can accost them. And even bringing the Monster of the Week in on things to help sell the deception. I like this. I like villains being smart. I like characters being smart. I like characters being distinct. Zyuohger's been doing a lot of great things this year. And it pretty much continued this trend for the pretty generic filler plot that, from how it started, I thought I was going to hate, because it's a 20-minute it's a 20-minute episode. You can't really do a whirlwind romance in 20 minutes with this just new character and, actually justify the one of the protagonists is actually liking this one-off throwaway character a lot like that. And they didn't try to fully go into that with this, but they kind of, started it in that Sela gains an appreciation for this fake doppelganger of a guy from a random monster victim's memory. I think it was a bit not advantageous, not opportunistic, convenient for Kubal to just test it on two people to get the memory of this guy who it turns out is a marriage swindler. I'm not getting into all that, but essentially he cons women into marrying them and getting married to him, and then makes them pay into something or other, and he just steals their money. It's it's the opposite of a gold digger, or male equivalent of a gold digger, or is gold digger just a catch-all for that kind of thing? No, wait, maybe it's, I might be thinking of the wrong thing. It's I don't even know where I'm going with this anymore. I need to look this up at some point. I might be getting my definition completely wrong of that. But essentially, because Kuval is essentially making the same mistake as Bangre with his minions, in that he doesn't understand humanity, so he doesn't really understand how to manipulate them or control them. So eventually, Fake Ray starts not obeying his orders and reveals his nature of what he does to Sela, so that she essentially breaks off this whirlwind romance when the others are put in danger by the monster of the week. And it's it doesn't fully come out of nowhere, but as it's precipitated by him seeing that the plan wasn't going to work, it was kind of flailing. I'm not sure if that's the word I want to use to describe this, but it wasn't doing what Kuval wanted it to do ultimately. So it kind of just falls apart. The deception pretty much just falls apart on itself, with Sela not ever knowing that it's a cloned individual of a real man. And that's kind of the tragedy that I help feels make it work, as from how things are depicted, it's kind of like this fake clone actually of this horrible person actually did end up feeling something tangible for Sela. So, as with usual with yuohger, it's continuing the streak of the show's good episodes. Not sure if there's anything else I want to say about that. Ex-aid. First off, last week I said Graphite subbed in for the Dawn reveal. I was completely wrong with that. I was misremembering it off the top of my head. It was actually Parad that subbed in for Dawn when he got de-transformed and attempted to be revealed by Kujo to Emu and Kagami. Reason I named the wrong person is I completely forgot Parad was even in the show. It's he's done nothing yet, so it's he's just there in the background, so it's hard to remember him actually being in the show since he's not done anything. You know what? I can kind of appreciate the in-the-background scheming individual to contrast the more battle-crazed main antagonist that Graphite's being. It's just that, like I said, if he stands too far in the back, you forget he's even there in the first place, which from a story standpoint I guess can work, as then you can he's scheming in the background, then he comes out of nowhere and he backstaboos you when you least expect it. So, okay, it's just that, I feel like he should have some role in things, like have a role in creating the Bugster, more than just playing the game cartridges and finding amusement in humanity and being there and, like, do something. Maybe he'll do something soon, aside from stubbing for Dan. Maybe he's studying humanity for his own greater scheme. I don't know. He's not really done anything yet. But, this week was Taiga getting his level 3 form of jet combat, and I like the design. I like how it latches on. I like how it looks kind of similar to the armament states. I like that he's finally another rider that has a natural flight form. I don't think we've had subtract that. We had Fours, we had Wizard. We've not had any since Gaim, though, that has had a form in their library of forms that has flight capabilities. So it was nice to see another one, even if it ended up being mostly CGI with a bit of zoomed-in wire work. Gatling guns that he draws from his back. It's well designed. I'm not a fan of the color palette, but I've been having issues with the color palette all series. So pretty much he corners the hybrid Bugster and pretty easily snags the Gashot, but instead of destroying the Bugster to help the host, he takes it hostage, because these hybrid Bugsters are actually pretty stupid without the Gashots inserted into them, and proceeds to put the patient's life on danger to drag out Emu and Kagami. And this actually kind of works now that they gave I am doing the right name, right? See, I think I have the right name. I'm terrible with names. Kagami, yeah. To drag them out for a 3-way level 3 blitz with their higher level Gashots on the line, and eventually he does manage to snag them from him, because both Brave and Ex-aid lack one important thing that Snipe has in spades: ranged weaponry. Yeah, with the jet combat Gashot, he is completely out of the range of all of their attacks, as none of them are homing, none of them have a lock-on skill, and honestly the best thing they had was Emu just trying to rocket punch him and snag him in the air by chance, but that's difficult because he can't, like, track him or doesn't have any skills to do it. And as Brave shown in this episode, due to the Doremi beat, he can launch sound wave slashes, like air slashes, that jet combat is just too agile to deal with. So in a purely skill of the rider ability table, this makes total sense why he would wipe the two and steal their equipment again. But I felt the episode ended up being rushed, and it's pretty much for the same reason I thought 2 weeks ago was rushed, with Kagami getting the Doremi beat Gasha, because there's 3 plots in this episode, and they all end up taking an equal amount of time once you get right down to it, since some of them intercede with each other. The first is, of course, Snipe versus Brave versus Ex-aid. The second is of the patients of both this week's and last week's Bugsters, the old man, and how his stress is caused by his daughter, pretty much losing the chance of having her own life to assist and help him with his work and his health, like taking her future from her unjustly, and also the factory which he owns and manages, which has not been doing well. But as the episode shows, the stress wasn't so much his factory, but the well-being of his workers, since a lot of his workers had been quitting, and he was concerned about them actually being able to support themselves, which is, honestly, in America, we have kind of a flipped perspective on the whole duties of the business owner kind of thing. But it was interesting, and I admit I teared up a bit because during the scenes with the old man, because they were actually pretty well accented by musical scores. It was pretty well staged. It was pretty well acted. Admittedly, it was a bit cheesy with how they kind of just repeated themselves with just knowing that you're going to be well and doing well, since the fact Snipe kind of wrecked the factory when he was fighting the hybrid Bugster. Actually, that was kind of Emmy's clue to what was actually the root of the stress, so honestly, the Bugster was pretty much neutralized anyways before it actually got destroyed in the episode. The third plot, of course, is involving Kujo and Don, in Kujo trying to figure out what Don is up to with interfering with the Bugster emergencies and the Bugster fighting, and why he seems to be facilitating all of it. And apparently Don has some of the same motivations as Kujo, at least if he's not lying, in that he's trying to study the Bugsters as well, even though he's shown the Bugsters that he's on their side because he's thrilled at the prospects of the game. So whether or not that's true, or whether both is true, or whether one or the other is a lie, we don't know at this point, because we've not had enough downtime with the characters to really get to know them. Part of the Don Kujo subplot is the introduction of proto-Gashats, which are apparently more powerful, but more hostile to the users, in that it shortens their lifespan or something, or stresses their body. I don't know. It's pretty much the... Don has been using the Proto-Mighty Action X Gashats, which is technically a bit weaker than the normal Mighty Action X Gashats, but I don't know. It seems like an odd thing to introduce. I think they're tying it into the upcoming crossover movie, because apparently some of the characters in there that become pseudo-Bugsters are using proto-Gashats. But of note was the Dragon Hunter Gashat, which is the 10th in the initial set, which Graphite gets his hands on and fuses with himself for... Why? Was the hybrid Bugster thing just them testing the capability of them to hybridize with them? Is it to make himself stronger when he's already the strongest Bugster we've seen? It's like, I'm left with more questions, because this feels like 3 different episodes mashed together with everything that is going on. And it's the same thing as 2 weeks ago, where it's not taking the time for all of these stories, which, if you dedicate an episode to them each, you'd not only... you'd have a more balanced story. You'd have enough time for all of these details, all of these fights. You don't need to just set one up, cut away from it for something else, and then come back with it in a different state, which seems the show is devolving to already again. Only other thing that's notable is that they give us a new detail about the gaming writer systems, in that all of the users needed to have a special surgery to become compatible with them, for them to actually be able to transform and use the Gashat abilities. Except for Emu, who has not had the surgery, and yet is perfectly natural to all of this, and this apparently has Don intrigued on whether he's a natural user for this system that he developed to fight and analyze the Bugsters, or there's something else going on. apparently the Bugsters, as has already been established in the show, were emerging before the gaming drivers or the Gashats were developed, even though they originated from the games the Gashats were made from, like prototypes. Bugs emerged from them. They got made into the Gashats because they're the roots of the infection they need to purify. I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. So, how far does this go back then? Like, there was the implication that the character of Mighty, that was part of Mighty Action X, goes back a long time. It's like a Mario character. So, this got me to thinking. We're first introduced to Emu when he's getting a surgery from a older doctor about 15 years ago. So, is Emu possibly related to the origins of the Bugster virus, and it just took years to actually propagate to the stage where it's emerging? So, is the doctor that helped Emu back then involved in all this? Is this tied to his backstory, since they've brought up the questionable state of him? We don't know yet. This is an episode I think could have been a lot better had it been split into, at least into two, or not had the old man plot part of it, as I said 2 weeks ago, and just had the same host create all four Bugsters. It would be spaced out on trying to help them. It would give more time for Kagami and his dead girlfriend. It would give more time to Taiga here and his Gashat obsession with the games, instead of just, trying to fight the Bugsters outright. It would give more time for this backstory with Dawn. It would just... You're trying to do interim character pieces with guest actors. I get that. I get kind of the emotional connection thing you're trying to form with just the everyday person to contrast the superheroes. I get that. But this is the same problem Ghost had a lot of the time, in that you're crowding out you're crowding out the main story, you're rushing past it with fight scenes, and if you don't have proper grounding to a lot of these things, you can't just tease the next thing over and over again and not really have development. You can't just be introducing the next new thing, rush past that, walk back in circles to something you should have addressed already. You can't do that and have the show really work well in the long term. Hopefully, once they get all the transformation trinket stuff, they'll slow down, discuss this stuff. We'll get it into the 13s. It's still show setup. It's not moving to awful yet, but the way it's compounding the error concerns me. At least next week we have the last of the initial 10 Gashats. We'll probably end up getting a super form in about episode 13, 14. But with the level 5 Dragon Hunter equipment on there, maybe they'll not repeat the story of the Gashat stealing again for a while yet. And more focus on them as characters and their conflicts, and not just drawing out the situation. Hopefully. Drawing a blank on what I want to also touch on, so I'm just gonna call it here. See you guys all for the next vlog. Check out the O-Ranger videos when they release on Saturday. I'll see you when I see you.